news we got here is Sonic Superstars team. This was like a pretty big thing. So Gamesradar did like a little thing talking to the developers, more specifically Iizuka, about Sonic Superstars. It's sort of, he had a comment about like they wanted to make sure that the game would look good in like 10 to 20 years, which is why they went against the pixel art style, which obviously a lot of people had problems with on Twitter and sort of just like on social media in general, because they're like, oh, but like these games in pixel art look great and whatever. I'm going to try to play devil's advocate here because obviously like I love pixel art. I love sort of what Sonic Mania did, sort of made the games look like they were on the Sega Genesis, but at the same time enhanced them. And I think that is what a lot of people wanted for Sonic Superstars, and sort of just like 2D pixel art in general, just sort of have games look like that. Also with other games from Square Enix, I forget the goddamn RPG. Damian, help me out here.
Octopath?
Yes, Octopath. You know, people, I saw someone used a screenshot from that game to sort of make a comparison of like, oh, you know, like pixel art can look great, and like, okay, yeah, but you know, I guess like Iizuka is just looking at it from like, I guess like a general perspective where like people look at pixel art and be like, oh, you know, like that game looks old, and like when people think of old, they don't think of like good or like new or whatever. So you know, it's just like a general audience thing. You know, I don't think he didn't want this game to be sort of pixel art or whatever. I think that was definitely like talked about, but I think that they went with 3D because, you know, they haven't had a, you know, Sonic game in 2D, but was also 3D and also good, you know, kind of thing. You know,
Right.
We've had Sonic the Hedgehog 4 episode 1, and obviously that was not the greatest, but we haven't had a traditional 2D Sonic game in a 3D environment yet. So why not have them try it out? So, you know, that's just me playing devil's advocate here. I'm not saying that he's correct necessarily within his thinking process. I just think that is where he's coming from with that opinion.
Yeah, so like I actually think the same way as you do, kind of. Like, all right, his statement is saying Pixar won't be viable in 10 years. I don't know what that means necessarily, because I think Pixar is probably one of the least like it's the most like timeless appropriate, timeless art style, right? Like Pixar will always look good. I think Super NES games still look amazing, and there's a reason why so many like indie games still use it. Like the art style just holds up super well. So I think that from that perspective, from an artistic like perspective, I think that's a dumb way to say that, because I don't think that's true at all. But I do think in terms of general audience perspective, like when people see Pixar art, they might think it's, you know, like I said, old, or they might think it's like a cheaper game, right? They might think like, oh, why is this game like $60 if it's like Pixar? That means it should be cheaper, right? Because, you know, people don't know, right? Like people think like better graphics like that would mean like, oh, it has to be more money or be cheaper if it's like Pixar art and stuff. Which also doesn't really make a lot of sense, but I definitely get what he means at that point when it's like, yeah, it won't be a viable art style in terms of like AAA companies, I guess, at that point, because, you know, people want to see the biggest, best graphics from these games and stuff if it's made by a big studio, and if they see Pixar art, they're gonna be like, like we don't really care. It should be cheaper. It should be like $20 at that point. So I kind of get it out of that perspective, but in terms of like artistic standing and stuff, I think Pixar is like some of the best like you could do because of how good it looks. But I guess in terms of big AAA companies, maybe it's not the best art thing to go for, because, you know, you want people to buy your game at like the maximum price, and if you make a Pixar art, it might be a bit harder for people to swallow. I think Octopath might have been the exception of that rule, where people actually did like kind of go crazy for it. But and I think that game looks fucking fantastic too. But you know, it's weird. It's two minds of it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Yeah, you know, like everyone on the internet and sort of in general are going to have their own different opinions of how they feel about pixel art. You know, some people may be able to play a game because it's in pixel art, and some people may be like, I don't want to play that because I don't like how it looks. You know, like it's just personal preference, personal opinion. And I think that pretty much almost everyone within the Sonic community agrees that, you know, they really do like the pixel style, and maybe we could get a maybe higher sort of pixel rate, you know, instead of like 32-bit, you know, maybe like 64, but at the same time that would be like 3D at that point. But, you know, at some point I'm sure we're going to get more 2D pixel art classic Sonic games. It's just that with this one they wanted to experiment with the 3D, because I think that was like a big thing that Iizuka and the team went into this for Sonic Superstars. So, you know, obviously his comments may seem a little, you know, far-fetched or whatever, but, you know, that's just how he thinks, and that's just the comment that he gave to this journalist in particular.
Yep. It's you know, hopefully people don't attack him like too much, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's what it's like. Like, I'm sure like whenever these headlines come out and like it seems really damning, like they don't mean it in like a really bad way or anything either. It's just like, like that's just kind of how it happens. So, yeah, hopefully nothing like, I mean, this is already kind of like a week old at this point, so I don't really know what happened with the discourse afterward, but yeah, just don't attack people.
It's actually only 2 days ago, but
Oh, was it? Oh my, time is like fucked for me now. God, it just felt like a week ago. All right, anyway, what just happened?